Since the dawn of time and realization that money makes the world go round, people have been absolutely killing themselves to make sure they can afford the things that make them happy. And while everyone has their own advice on how to build wealth in a reliable way, there are quite a few myths out there as well. But what are the myths surrounding the concept of wealth building? And how can we correct them with some simple facts? Well, whether you're a budding entrepreneur or just need some advice to help you get by during the global health situation, you've come to the right place, as we're about to debunk some of the greatest myths about getting rich, while giving you the advice we wish we'd been told years ago. So, strap yourselves in and get ready for things to get interesting. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on, so you don't miss out on any of the new videos we post. Number 1. The myth of multiple streams. One of the most common misconceptions that exists in respect of wealth building is the myth that the more income streams you have at your disposal, the wealthier you will become. Straight off the bat, it sounds like a great idea, as it stands to reason that 2 paychecks are better than 1. But starting too many streams of income at the same time can also result in your downfall. Think of this as trying to push a bunch of heavy balls up a hill. If you have 1 stream of income, then this is pretty easy to manage. But if you have 2, or possibly even 3, that trip up the hill is going to be a lot more difficult. And while it may be true that hard work can most certainly get you where you need to be, this almost never pays off when you have far too many revenue streams under your control. Working really hard on one revenue stream comes off as an investment and will most likely be realized by your boss, who may even consider you for a promotion in the days to come. Take that same amount of hard work and divide it between all of the revenue streams that you have, and you'll find that you are now only giving half or a third as much effort to a specific project. So while you may start this process strongly, research and evidence points to the fact that multiple streams of income cause the worker to lose both focus and time. If you do want another stream of income, rather, take it on as a side hustle. This way, you'll be able to concentrate as much as possible on your primary stream of income, and then only designate time to your side hustle when time is available. You also need to remember that money doesn't make money. It's people that make money. So rather than investing in various streams of income, think of investing in various teams. When you have invested in people over and above assets, you'll find that you'll be able to designate tasks and avoid pushing those various streams of income up the hill on your own. In other words, if you really are dead set on building your wealth by engaging in various streams of income, do this by employing a team of people you trust. Only then will you be a success without losing the focus you have. The myth of passive income. Another misconstrued statement that is often heard in the business world is the fact that you have to spend money to make money. And while this statement may be true, it must never be used as an excuse to overspend on anything. Many believe that you can get wealthy by purchasing an asset that will increase in value over the years, regardless of how much debt this item will put you in at the time. And while you wait for this asset to earn you some passive income, there's really no longer a need to work any longer. But this is, unfortunately, a myth that is too often perpetuated, leaving far too many people in deep holes that they are unable to get out of. Remember, getting yourself into debt is the last thing you'll want to do if your primary purpose is to build your wealth. It is often said that debt digs holes, not rivers. So regardless of how much of a return you see in an asset, stay away from its purchase if it is going to put you into debt. It's as simple as that. And even if you can afford to buy the asset without getting yourself into debt, this is never an excuse to stop working. Let's say that you invest in a rare comic book. Since this is a niche market, you'll need to work hard to keep an eye on the respective market. You'll also need to know when a buyer arises and how much that buyer is willing to purchase that comic book from you for. There's no such thing as passive income, as it still requires you to actively work to ensure that your investment grows. Building your wealth through passive income is also something that only the wealthiest of individuals can do. If you have a trust fund, for example, you'll be able to make a number of investments of large amounts that are in accordance with the advice of your financial planner. In this case, your wealth will probably grow while you vacation in the Bahamas. But for us normal people, the risk of doing so is too high. Remember, investments can always fail, regardless of how much of a sure thing they may be described to be. So, never stop working working. It is always in your best interest to keep moving forward, regardless of how much you are making on the market. Strive for more, and you'll find yourself at the top in no time at all. The myth of having an exit strategy. Something that the older generation has fostered in us is the idea that we should be aiming to make a lot of money in our younger years so that we can afford to cash out when we no longer feel like working. This is, however, a myth that has resulted in quite a few people finding themselves between a rock and a hard place. Wealth doesn't come when you sell out. So, while an exit strategy will always be useful, it is not something that should be relied upon if you are thinking of increasing your riches. So, rather than working hard now to prepare for your eventual exit from the profession, spend some time experimenting until you find something that you actually love to do. As they say, do something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. In other words, love what you do and you won't even care about an exit strategy, as you'll want to do that job for the rest of your life. Strangely enough, when money isn't the primary concern when it comes to your job, wealth usually increases gradually regardless of how hard you work. At least, that's what research shows. And we suppose that's because a fulfilled worker is far better at his job than someone who is only working long enough to earn and provide for himself when he is older. So, if you're currently working a job that you hate, look at other avenues and explore a bit. When you do finally find an employment opportunity you're excited about, you've already won. Number 4. The myth of being your own boss. Another myth that is perpetuated far too often is the myth that you will only start to build your wealth when you are accountable to you and you only. And while being your own boss is ideal because you get to choose what you want to do and when to do it, you are never only accountable to yourself. Even if you own your own business, you have a slew of obligations to other people, be they suppliers or customers. A far better way of increasing your wealth is to not choose to be your own boss at the end of the day, but rather choose who your bosses will be. It sounds almost contradictory that you'll end up making more money serving as a servant than being self-serving, but this remains true especially if you are just starting out in the industry. Many people make the mistake of preparing themselves for an interview by deciding on answers to frequently asked questions. What you should actually be doing at this interview is showing who you really are and figuring out for yourself whether you'll get on with the bosses who are running the interview. A great working environment is far more conducive to wealth building than the earning of a large salary, as it will contribute to your love for the job. And once more, when you love your job, you will not only end up working harder, but end up learning a lot more about the industry in general. And then, when the time finally comes for you to fly the coop and start your own business, you'll know precisely what is expected of you in the future. But in the meantime, don't be afraid to be a servant to a boss that you respect and one that treats you well. Research shows that this is an important step, so don't skip it. Number 5. The myth of risking it all. Ever heard the expression, "You've got to risk it to get the biscuit"? Well, for a while now, people have believed that the most successful entrepreneurs are those who put everything on the line in order to make it big. And while there are a lot of examples of people who have made a name for themselves by doing this, we have to remind you of a simple fact. There are far more people out there who have failed by following the same business plan, but we often don't hear about people like this, as human beings prefer a success story to one of ultimate disappointment. So rather than falling into a hole by following this myth and risking it all, be a little bit smarter. Do you know of any other wealth-building myths that are often perpetuated in life? Feel free to let us know in the comments section down below.